Welcome to the Painterly Studio. Today we're going to learn about value color relationships and monochromatic color schemes. And then I'm going to teach you how to organize the values into a composition. And then we're going to create 3 different color value monochromatic studies so that you can see how they change depending on color choices. So if you're ready, let's get started. So let's use this value color relationships chart as a visual. Color and value are generally thought of as separate, but actually every color has a specific value. Generally speaking, yellow is the lightest value color and violet is the darkest. Red, orange, and blue-green are both considered middle value colors. And but within each family of colors, these values don't always hold true. For instance, red violet over here is considered a dark value. These are Windsor. This is a Windsor violet. Some of them, like a cobalt violet, is also considered a red violet. So I know that's really technical, but it depends on the different brand that you're using. In my classroom, I have my students start off with a monochromatic color scheme value chart similar to these. They do a black and white version and label them, and then they also pick a color so that they get used to mixing colors and get an idea of how many ranges you can add to a picture. Because sometimes students or even just any artist forgets that you can push your values. So I tell my students all the time, push your values, push your values. That means try to get every single one of these values in a painting so that it compositionally looks more attractive, more appealing. That's the first thing, is your value chart. Play around and get used to mixing colors and see how many values you can add. So this is what I have done on my watercolor pad. I'm going to show you how to mix these colors together to create a neutral. So here's my white, here's my black, and here's my neutral. I'm going to select a color and put it here, okay? So in the monochromatic color scheme, the painter can lighten the color of the painting with white, or in this case, water, because we're doing watercolor, okay? Because watercolor is transparent. Or you can darken the color with black, and then we're going to neutralize it with its complementary color instead of neutralizing it with a brown. So the color I chose is this dark blue. I mean, I just put the word blue there. You can get real technical and put the actual color of these if you have like a watercolor tube, but I just have this dark blue. So I added water to it to start with a few minutes ago just to make sure that I get it kind of flowing. I've got quite a bit of blue on here. I'm just going to go ahead and make my dark color to start with. If I want it darker, I can just go in. Just let it sit like this for a second, okay? Then I'm going to gradually start adding more water to get it towards the white side up here. I'll show you that in a second. Okay, now watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to dip. This is fresh water, okay? I'm going to dip it in one time and then just shake it off, and then I'm just going to add a little color here. Okay, you can see the value difference, right? Dip it in again, shake it off once, and do it again. It's getting lighter, right? Dip it in, shake it off once. See what's happening? Dip it in, shake it off once, and pretty soon, it's pretty, I'm going over that. You can see that's turning into black because it's kind of mixing with, that pin that I put on there. But you can see a nice value scale here that I have created because I have gradually added more water. Okay, very different than acrylic. So now I'm going to gradually add a little bit more black each time to this blue to get it shaded, okay? This is the tint and this is the shade down here. So what I want to do is first load my brush with this color, okay? So let's get it loaded with the blue first. It's got a little water on it. And see, I've got quite a bit of blue on here. Okay, so do that first. Okay, I'm going to grab a little bit of black on here, and then you can kind of test it, okay, here. And I'm going to go ahead and paint a section like that with the black. Grab a little bit more and paint a section. Grab a little bit more and paint a little bit here. Add a little bit more black here. And don't cover your words. I'll just go like this and kind of do a blot. Okay, so now I want you to look at that so you can see. So here is the tint and here is the shade, gradually turning into deep dark black. Okay, so looking at this value scale here, it's kind of a technical value scale. It's got a lot going on. But here's blue. We are going to add its complement, okay? So complement of blue would be orange. So across the color wheel, if we were using yellow, its complement would be purple. Okay, so blue and orange are complements. That's what we're going to add, is a little bit of orange to this blue to neutralize it. Okay, so let's go in and neutralize this blue. So instead of just adding, when you have complementary colors, I should probably say this, when you have complementary colors that are mixed together, you end up with browns, different shades of brown, okay guys? So instead of just adding brown to it to get to the brown, we're gonna neutralize it the proper way with its complementary color. Depending on which complementary color you add to the specific primary color, you're going to get different shades of brown also. That's another lesson in itself. But I just wanted to throw that out there real quickly. So fresh water, and then I'm going to choose the orange. Here's an orange right here. The other one this looks like a yellow orange, and that looks like a red orange. So I better just pick the straight up orange, right? And I'm going to go ahead and wet it down, okay? And then I need to get some of that orange off because I just want a little bit. So I'm gonna rinse it out just a little bit, shake it. Actually, I'm gonna rinse my brush out completely. Sorry guys, because I want to start with this blue. So this is the blue that I started with here. Load your brush with a lot of blue like you did before. Okay, so it's really loaded like I was beginning with. And then I'm just gonna touch it quickly onto the orange, and then I'll show you how to do it. Okay, so I loaded my brush with the orange, and I know I know what you're thinking. I'm getting this dirty. That's okay. I'm just gonna grab a little bit of orange. I'll clean it up later, okay guys? And I'm going to paint some right there. Grab a little bit more orange, paint some there. A little bit more orange, paint it there. A little bit more, paint it. A little bit more, paint it. A little bit more. Okay, so I've got my brown. That's a pretty good brown. That's kind of like Oklahoma red dirt brown. That's what I would call the blue and orange combo is like the deep. I think it's the prettiest brown. I hate brown, but I think it's the prettiest brown. Okay, so that's how to neutralize your blue. So looking at this, I really should redo it, but that's okay. I was gonna redo it and then edit the video, but I thought, you know what? It's probably good, probably better for you to see the mistake I made. and then that way you won't make it. But see how it jumps from the blue, the solid blue, all the way to the brown right away. It's a little bit bluish brown right here, but it's too much of a jump. So that means that I added too much orange to my brush to begin with. So I probably should have just barely added a tiny bit instead of really dove in there. So I'm just going to keep it so that you can kind of see what not to do. You don't want that stair step so drastically like I did here. The reason I wanted you to do this range of a monochromatic color scheme is so that you can illustrate the range using one color, and see how the value of the color is changed by lightening with white or adding water, and then by darkening it with black to create a shaded area, and then the neutralization of it. But I want you to realize that you can create different moods and effects. Some really cool moods and effects can be achieved with this kind of color study. The next thing that we are going to be doing is creating 3 different color studies with this idea in mind. Okay, this is example 1. Your first color study, come up with a composition, and what you're going to focus on with this one is strong contrast of lights and darks. You're going to use them to attract the eye. So you can see that I've got the full intensity orange here and the whites. So those contrasting colors are moving the eye around the painting. Also, full intensity orange is used in some of the roofs to attract the eye. The rest of the color has been neutralized to various degrees to vary the warmth and the movement of the study. Okay, here's your example of the second study. In this study, there's no full intensity orange, so make sure you go ahead and don't use that full intensity orange in this one. The orange has been neutralized with blue to give it more earthy feel. Value of the orange is the key in this one. The strongest contrasting lights and the darks are placed in areas to attract the eye and direct it around the composition. So you get a different feel with this particular composition and this particular color mixing without the bright orange. Your third study is more of a bright and airy look. So you're using lighter values for study number 3. Notice that there's still enough value change between all the adjacent shapes so that each shape can be clearly distinguished. The lower right building here has some full intensity orange to give it more emphasis. The rest of the composition is painted with varying amounts of neutralized orange. So if you use a full intensity orange, use that orange intentionally to create a focal point somewhere in the painting. I hope you enjoyed learning about neutralizing colors with me today and monochromatic color schemes. The color studies are intended to help you plan out compositions so that you can select the proper mood for your painting, and so that you can be more intentional about how you use color and how you direct the eye in a painting, which is very important. So for my personal painting students, they will be moving on to a actual monochromatic painting that they will produce. But if you're just watching this and following along with me and learning painting techniques, I thank you for joining me, and I will see you next time.